Hello everybody and welcome back to the Fortress of Solitude. Today we're going to be talking about Absolute Superman issue 16, written by Jason Aaron, with art and colors by Juan Ferreira and letters by Becca Carey. Absolute Superman's never-ending battle begins as decades before Kal's arrival on Earth, archaeologist Carter Hall and his assistant Mark descend into the tomb of Teth Adam in the year 1940, amazed at the vertical antechamber of the tomb. The duo come across gifts embedded in the wall for Teth Adam, like a giant mace. So over the last two issues, Jason Aaron has greatly expanded the Absolute Universe, but this is definitely some of the bigger stuff. We have confirmation that Black Adam existed in this world. In fact, he will be tackled in an upcoming arc of this very book. So that'll be interesting to see what he is in this world, whether he's a villain, whether he's a hero, a vengeful god, who knows what else. But I'm loving the flavoring that Aaron is putting in this book. It's not Superman's greatest rogues gallery. There's been a couple of them, a couple of familiar Superman villains, but I like that there's a variety. He fought Ra's al Ghul. It looks like he might be fighting Black Adam as one of them. He's going to fight Hawkman. It's a real flavor to it, and I really like that. It's a real variety. They go further down into the tomb, and Carter comments on how Lazarus is paying them very well to catalog all of this, but Mark knows Berlin pays even better, revealing he's actually working for the Nazis. He cuts Carter's rope, causing him to fall back, but Carter is able to grab one of the sides of the antechamber for balance. Mark tells Carter that this isn't personal, the Nazis just had a heck of a lot of gold. Carter claws his way back up the stone wall, telling Mark that he's not letting this power fall into the hands of Hitler. As Mark descends further into the tomb, Carter is left with no choice but to grab a mace, hoping he can swing it down onto Mark, but upon grabbing the mace, it activates and begins covering his body in a gold color. Above ground, the Peacemakers, which I gotta say look awesome in their 1940s World War II era costumes with the Thompson machine guns and like the slacks, they look really damn cool. They scramble to help the scientist in the hole after hearing a scream, but Carter, now covered in what is left of Mark and wielding both a giant mace and metal wings, erupts from the hole, telling the Peacemakers he's one of the good guys. So much is going on in these first two pages, and I love it all. It's all really cool stuff. We get the origin of Hawkman in this world, and it looks like they're going the way where he's just kind of a normal archaeologist dude given alien technology. The Absolute Universe has a great opportunity to explore lots of stuff with Hawkman, since they won't be bogged down in the several layers deep origins which constantly change. And we've had writers like Robert Venditti, who wrote a fantastic Hawkman book, try and sort of untangle it, and they do the best they can. And I like here we kind of have that fresh slate, as with all the characters in this, that they can basically just start at chapter 1, and I like that we can actually follow through on that in this book. In the present, Hawkman confronts Superman, demanding to know what he is doing. Superman, though, is just a tad distracted, constantly leaving to help save anyone and everyone he can, which gets on Carter's nerves, making him grab Kal and demand he not do that again, since there's always people in trouble, and he's used to people listening to him when he speaks. Thanks to Hawkman's firm grip, Clark figures that he's not from Earth, and we get a bit more about who Carter is, learning that he's from Gotham City, and back during World War II, he fought the Nazis, and they dubbed him the Hawkman. I love at this part we actually get to see how his suit works, and how his costume activates, and how the helmet kind of parts in the middle to reveal his face, and he's got like all these bandages over it like he's some sort of Egyptian mummy, and the bandages also look very sentient as well, and they kind of retract, kind of like they did in Moon Knight. Really damn cool. I really like the idea that he's kind of like this mummy trapped in like an armor that's like keeping him alive and keeping him young. Carter wants to have a little bit of a chat with Clark, as in Metropolis, a group of special agents from Gates, the global anti-terrorism and emergency service, who I might point out their logo, we see it on the side of a truck, and it's of a giant owl, which makes me immediately think, giant owl is DC. Is it the Court of Owls? Maybe, maybe not. Who knows? It's very specific. We get to see that logo. It's like right there in the foreground. So there's definitely going to be something with Gates on in the future. The agents of Gates load boxes from Lazarus's vaults into a truck, but some Peacemakers want to prevent that, told by Talia over the radio to just destroy the crates. The Peacemakers open fire, destroying the crate and unleashing something horrific onto the agents, which consumes them. Hawkman meanwhile reveals to Superman that both he and the alien aren't the first costume people trying to make a difference, and there were many, but now there's a bunch more have sprung up all at once, and he believes that Superman knows why, finding it highly unlikely that it's just all a coincidence. And that's what I've been saying, like all these heroes popping up all at the same time, there's got to be a reason for that, and obviously we're going to find out more at the end of DC KO, and I imagine there is going to be some sort of absolute universe event in the very near future that sort of brings a lot of these heroes together. Maybe they fight Darkseid or something, I don't know. Hawkman mentions Batman, Wonder Woman, and Green Lantern and Flash, to name a few, but Clark doesn't know who they are, very clearly eager to get back to helping the screaming people. Hawkman shows just how jaded he has become over the years, as he thinks that people like Clark who pop up think that they will do some good and they are always the same, but Superman is just the newest in a long line of people like Oliver Queen, Dr. Fate, and Iron Monroe. Names Superman won't know because they were all stupid. I love the direction Aaron is taking with Hawkman here, how he's kind of acting like a mentor to Superman, kind of trying to tell him how the world works, teach him how it operates and how he fits into it and all that sort of stuff. But then you see he's become so jaded by all of this and hardened by this world created by Darkseid that he doesn't see the little things like helping those in need is important, and it's what's going to make Clark clash with him. He doesn't like, helping people. He's kind of in it for himself. Since underneath all those maces and wings and fancy armor, Hawkman's probably just a coward just trying to keep his head down so the villains don't blow it off. We've seen him work for the villains. He killed Oliver Queen, so we see that he's willing to do that and work for the villains just to make sure he survives. And I imagine Superman will see that as being some form of cowardice. Hawkman explains to Superman that he can't change things overnight and he wants to make a difference, and he has to stop basking in the spotlight, something Superman finds strange since he does not like the attention at all. Hawkman knows that getting his picture taken all over the globe and helping these people is putting himself in the spotlight, and he knows that he's saved possibly billions of people in the last 80 years of his career, but none knew his name since he did it the smart way, which is implied to be Carter killing, something we actually get to see him do. We get to see him kill his first person, which was marked down in the tomb when he beat his head in with the mace. Him also killing is something Clark very much is against, like the entire arc with Raish over the last couple of issues has been about him going against Raish and not wanting to kill and wanting to show that there is a different way to operate. Carter wants to show Clark the right way to operate though, and it begins by him giving up his feud with Lazarus and working with them, since it will make things so much easier. So yeah, this is what I mean when Hawkman is a bit of a coward. He's a bootlicker who doesn't want to rock the boat since he's gotten comfortable in the ways things are and he doesn't want anything spoiling that, and Superman spoils that. Hawkman says that while he's wounded Lazarus, powerful people will not let Superman destroy it completely, and he needs to learn to work with them, something Superman absolutely hates, since why would he work for mass murderers? Carter goes to explain but can tell Superman is about to leave again, demanding that he stay where he is, so Superman says he won't walk away this time, wrapping Hawkman up in his cape and blasting off with the being trailing not far behind him. As Superman and Hawkman go about their adventure, Lois Lane goes about her own as she arrives at the Daily Planet, although it's not the sprawling skyscraper with the giant globe on the top she thought. It's a dingy, asbestos-filled office a few blocks down. This reveal about the Daily Planet and how the original Daily Planet building with the globe on top is now just condos and apartments, while the actual Daily Planet is just a shitty office down the street is par for the course for this absolute universe. This is bound to happen. I knew this was going to happen, and I love it. I love that idea that the Daily Planet building is kind of like a relic from the past, because a whole building dedicated to the Daily Planet, or a bunch of floors dedicated to the Daily Planet is not a realistic thing, not anymore at least. It was back in the 1930s and 40s, but modern times newspapers aren't doing too well, so it makes sense they wouldn't be in this big sprawling building. They'd be in the little office down the road. What's even cooler than the Daily Planet's introduction is the introduction of Perry White, who here is quite a lot younger than he usually is. He's still older than Lois, but he's very clearly a younger man, as Lois meets with him out front of the old office, learning from the journalist about how she's about 20 years too late if she thought she'd be working in the big building with the globe on top. So as it turns out, Perry has read Lois's work, thinking that she definitely has something for Superman in her writing, and wishes her luck, since while Lois is starting a new job, Perry has just been laid off, and he is actually leaving as Lois is arriving. So this is sorta in line with with the main universe, as Perry is no longer the editor-in-chief of the Daily Planet. In fact, Lois is actually the editor-in-chief. But I hope this isn't Aaron writing Perry out of the book just because, I don't know, he doesn't have anything exciting for him or doesn't want too many characters. And hopefully we do get to see him a little bit, because just the little bit we get here, you can tell he has a positivity for his job. He fucking loves the work as a journalist, and he doesn't really seem hurt by the fact that he got fired. He kind of understands the game he plays, and it'd be really cool to see him pop up as a freelance journalist or something, that Lois can interact with at some point. As Lois readies to start her interview at the Daily Planet, Jimmy texts her, revealing he actually is the one who took Perry's job, becoming the new Metro desk editor, something he knows nothing about. Lois doesn't get to answer as people in the city begin to scream around her. Superman and Hawkman meanwhile arrive in Metropolis, where Superman could hear the screaming. Before Cal can help out though, Hawkman smashes him in the face with his mace, and at this point I've got to mention Juan Ferreira's just impeccable artwork. Every page is just a feast for the eyes, none more so than these next couple of pages, which are all action based. There's one coming up where Hawkman is blasted down through several buildings and into the subway, and it's done in this sort of where the buildings are sort of cut in half and you get a cross section, so you see inside them as he's busting down through their roofs. It just looks fucking amazing. Superman demands to know what Carter is doing since there are people screaming, but Hawkman wants Superman to just worry about himself for once. Hawkman is pretty formidable foe, which is something I was really surprised by, because I was like, Hawkman is pretty strong, but he's not Superman level strong. How are you going to deal against Superman? And the idea is that it's basically the armor doing all of the work and all the gadgets doing all of the work, kind of like a Batman situation in that regards, whereas it's all technology. Superman has never fought before and is kind of giving him a run for his money, which I really like. I really like that Superman is struggling with Hawkman here. We get to see more of the alien tech in action, as well as Clark tries to use his cape on him to pin him down, and Hawkman is able to use his mace to electrify the cape, and it kind of nullifies it a little bit and kind of makes it go away, and I guess he reboots it or sends it into some sort of system crash, so Superman doesn't have a cape through most of this battle, which is really cool. Hawkman also makes a pretty good point in that Superman thought he was the strongest person there is, so he's never had to learn how to actually throw a punch, which he hasn't, but also at the same time, Superman is not one to want to throw a punch. As we saw in the last issue, he wants to help Ra's al Ghul by actually, reading to him and just being there for him and talking with him. He'll throw a punch if he has to, but that's not what he wants to resort to straight away. The beating takes its toll on Superman, and he gets angry and he grabs Hawkman's mace, punching him so hard he crashes through several buildings and into the Metropolis subway system. The fight is only just heating up when both Hawkman and Superman are stopped in their tracks by Parasite, who, thanks to the Peacemakers blowing up the crate the agents of Gate were taking, was released, and really, he is terrifying. It just looks like the 1988 version of the Blob, this giant purple-pink monstrous form with tentacles that grab people off the streets and start eating them. It's got its giant mouthy maw that really reminds me of Biolante. I really like these things that Juan Ferreira and I assume Jason Aaron are pulling from, body horror of the 80s, Biolante, the Blob, all stuff from the 80s that I love. I do wonder if we're going to have a Rudy Jones form, or whether it's just going to be this giant purple-pink monster, which I'd be totally fine with. I'd love for Superman to actually have a kaiju villain straight off the bat here. That would be really fun to deal with, because he's dealt with, people, soldiers, have a big alien monster. As Parasite rampages through the street, Superman tells Hawkman that this is the only fight that matters, but unfortunately we don't get to see much of the fight this issue, as we cut over to Lex Luthor, who has met with the human disguised Brainiac, which funnily enough looks more like the classic bald Lex Luthor than Lex does in this universe, even down to his love of the color green. Brainiac tries to convince Lex that he's the guy who's going to help save the world, and he should come work for Brainiac. But Lex, ever the humble country boy from Missouri, doesn't think that he's just some normal farm guy. So I figured Lex in this universe would be one of those billionaires who's kind of made his billions and retired. He's kind of living a luxurious but casual life somewhere where, the company's off making money for him, other people really run it. He's just, the guy, you see him in movies all the time, that billionaire who's really casual and everything and isn't really part of the company anymore. I thought that would be what this Lex Luthor is, but it isn't. I kind of like that he's just like a farmer guy. It's like a what if Lex stayed in Smallville, he never moved away and kind of just grew up and lived there his entire life. That's what this Lex is. It's a Lex who is happy, which is really quite cool. Brainiac tries a little too hard to convince Lex that he's the right guy and he needs help against Superman. Lex's kids, Alex and Lena, come to see him, telling them they're getting ready to cut the cake, and it's then that we learn that it's Lex's birthday, and all his family and friends are around at his house to celebrate. This is a hell of a lot different to the usual Lex stuff we get, and I really like the change. It's just complete 180 opposite of what everything Lex usually is, and it's as though this world made by Darkseid, which is full of hate and unhopeful stuff, Lex kind of lucked out. He kind of got the life he probably wanted deep down. I quite like that. He's kind of rewarded the villain, and I kind of like that he isn't like some like fucked up body horror, guy like every other villain so far has been in this book and in any other books. He's like the most normal villain we have seen. He's not even a villain. Lex politely declines Brainiac's offer since he's got everything he ever needs in life. News Brainiac does not take too kindly to, and he ends up dropping his disguise, revealing his gross cyborg body to the entire family, which he intends on carving up in order to motivate Lex. So there is the Darkseid's influence on Lex's life, the tragedy that will probably befall him and turn him to villainy. However, I would like to see it do the opposite, in that, he goes through all of this sort of stuff and he comes out the other side knowing he needs to be a hero and ends up teaming with Superman against Brainiac and Lazarus and whoever else. That would be like a really cool twist. It would be kind of an obvious twist, but it would be a really cool one. But I guess time will tell what this book has in store for Lex Luthor. Absolute Superman issue 16 was another home run for Jason Aaron and his team. It's a new arc and it hits the ground running hard, balancing a lot of interesting and very important storylines we've seen teased up until now. Hawkman being this jaded bootlicker who is somewhat of an uneasy ally for Superman is great. It's a fantastic play for that character. I really loved their interactions, and I really liked that it allowed us to explore a little bit more of the past of the Absolute Universe, especially through Carter's origin and what happened to him to become Hawkman. The reveal of the Parasite, who's very much like the Blob, the horror villain the Blob, was fantastic, a nice twist. It's something I did not expect, and I really like Lex Luthor's surprising turn in this issue as well. Something very much benign, something very much the opposite of what I thought Lex Luthor would be in this universe. It's very much a setup issue, so if you have problems with that, you're probably not going to like this issue very much, but I love this. I love that the groundwork is being laid for all of these classic Superman villains and other heroes to appear, and the world is just getting that much bigger, and all of the world building Jason Aaron and his team is doing is just fantastic. I'm going to give this issue a 9.5 out of 10.